Do you own a business in unincorporated King
All
County?
right.
If so, you could be eligible for a COVID-19 grant through the Small Business Assistance Program. King County is giving businesses another chance to apply for up to $5,000 in grants to help offset the costs of things like utilities and loss of business due to the pandemic. Look, if you've already applied but were rejected, you may still be eligible under the program's expanded guidelines. To apply or find out if your business qualifies, visit kingcounty.gov/local business help. Again, that's kingcounty.gov/local business help.
Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station will provide you with more information. Rainier Avenue Radio.
Hello. Once again, I'm your host today, John Yasutake, on our weekly program revolving around or involving the coronavirus, reporting to you from Rainier Avenue Radio.world. We've been doing this since March 13th, so we've been doing this for quite a while. And as long as we've got a pandemic out there, we will invite different organizations and individuals to talk about the impacts of the coronavirus on our South Seattle community, as well as communities around the area. And again, as I said, we broadcast every Friday and to provide you information. We want to talk about with our diverse residents, service providers, with respect to issues involving housing, childcare, the impact on schools and businesses. So we've got an organization called, RVC, Rainier Valley Core, and we have, is it Miko?
Yeah, Miko.
Miko, how you doing, Miko? We're going to be getting. Yeah, well, thank you very much. As I said, we've been doing this every week. Our great director and our staff, Tony Benton, has been and kind enough to ask me to host today's show. And so we're going to get to know a little bit about also you, as well as your organization and the impact. So we don't have a lot of time, so let's
get right to it.
So let's get into it, because again, our purpose today is to try to share information about the things that you're doing, how you can help and assist the community, and again, as they say, lessen the impacts of the coronavirus on our communities, especially the South Seattle community and environments close by, Beacon Hill.
Sure.
So please, Miko,
yes.
Could you pronounce your Miko Pugal?
It's Pugal.
Pugal, okay, Miko,
Pugal.
Thank you. Well, Rainier Valley Core, and that's what I have as RVC. Tell us a little bit about, well, first of all, where did you grow up? You're a South Seattle guy, I hear, huh?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the South End, so I grew up on Beacon Hill.
Okay.
I did the whole route of public school education. I went to John Muir, A. Mercer Middle School, and I'm an alumni of Franklin High School. So go Quake.
What? That South End school with Franklin? Oh, okay. Of course, I
hear you. The language of it has definitely been different, but like we're not in CD. That's all I can say. So
well, that's where I went to school, at the doghouse. So we have a natural love for Franklin guys.
It's all love. Sometimes
yeah. It's all love. So that's great. So your family, your original nationality, I'm assuming what?
I'm Filipinx. So I'm from the Philippines. My dad is Ilocano. My mom's Tagalog. So
hold it. You got Ilocano and Tagalog. So do you speak Ilocano or Tagalog, or both?
I can speak Tagalog. Ilocano, I can just understand.
Oh, okay, okay.
So all my Tagalog listeners, magandang hapon.
And we do a show called Phil Ann, which is Taglish.
That's a little bit up my alley.
Yeah, right. Well, that's great. So you're a South End guy, grew up in the South End, went to school. So now, the work that you're doing, how did you get involved in doing this kind of work? It's basically community service. So how did you get involved?
So I used to work at a nonprofit organization called All Girl Everything Ultimate Program, Age Up. They so happen to be part of the fiscal sponsorship program at RVC. But part of what we used to at Age Up we did was an ultimate frisbee program at schools. So I was playing ultimate frisbee at Ace Mercer Middle School since I was in 6th grade. I've been playing for I'm 26 now, so it's almost like 13 years.
Wow.
That's how I actually found my world around organizing was through community organizing was through sports, right? Like sports does a really good job of meeting the basic need of like connection with people, like having young people feel empowered in their bodies, especially when you're a young brown person in a predominantly white sport. Like we were like busing all the way to like Ingram to like Magnuson just to play like a 9 a.m. game just because Saturday games, like somewhere like our parents couldn't drive us. Like they had to either like run to the food bank, had work, like had to take care of our siblings. So it was like I got to see the impacts of like oppression through this lens of sports, and through that organization, I was able to like really build around what does sports look like in a world where we try to dismantle white supremacy. So yeah, that's a little bit of how I came to be. So shout out to all the South and Ultimate schools. We have programs in Aki Ultimate and Aki Karosi, South Shore, Ace Mercer Middle School, Cleveland, Franklin, and Rainier Beach. So ultimate frisbee isn't just a white sport. Like we've been holding it down here in the South End for a minute now, for almost a decade.
So you coach too, ultimate frisbee, right?
Yep.
So what's the age group that you work with?
So I coach primarily 8th graders in the spring, and then I coach high school boys in the fall.
All right. Okay.
So a lot of that work was like the reason why I love doing like sports work is you get to really be personal with young folks. Like you get to really build a good relationship with them. And especially like I was saying, like as young brown men, like the world hurts, is hurtful. So it was a good chance for me to be like, to like build relationships with my young boys, to be like, yo, like this world, like you've been hurt, you've been impacted by this world. Let's build dialogue around it. Let's break bread. Let's play ultimate. Let's have fun. And like, let's do something more.
Well, let me, so now let's get into really drill down what this COVID pandemic, COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic.
Yeah.
Sports, no matter, almost every sport is engaging another individual in contact sports. With other people all the time. But it's, how do you manage, how can we work with this? Talking about your involvement in the community, let's say just on coaching, how do you work with the group to keep safe distance, safe practices, health, all that kind of stuff?
I personally don't coach anymore, but I do from Age Up, which is one of the fiscally sponsored organizations that we have in our program in RVC. A lot of like when you do sports really well, like the field no longer becomes the barrier of connection. Like a lot of, unfortunately, like everyone went digital or went through online through Zoom,
right?
And like Age Up recently did a lot of the like Age Up, Wablock, Creative Justice are some of the few organizations that we fiscally sponsored that went their programming online. And it was both like a challenge to figure out what are the tech needs that our young people need. Like what are, like some folks doesn't have like internet, but once we solve all those things, like people will come back, like the return rate, people want to be engaged. So you can just see like how much like the pandemic of COVID really highlight the fact that we are creatures of connection. We want to be connected, and we want to be connected to the places that speaks most to our well-being. And like yeah, so I want to just give a quick shout out to like Creative Justice, Wablock, and Age Up for doing that work.
Very good. So your operations, I guess your operations support program manager.
That is
Rainier Valley. Well, first of all, I want to talk about that one. That's a mouthful of a title.
It is a mouthful. It's a whole lot of syllables. It's like a Filipino name,
Yeah, more than one. But then again, Filipino names are cultural because they have more than one family name in there.
More than one family name. Always.
Yeah, it's always so. Rainier Valley Corps, and I know that's not necessarily the full title. But what does Rainier Valley Corps do?
So RVC Seattle, that's our we recently changed our name. So Rainier Valley 4.
Right.
We changed that just because we serve a different organizations that isn't specifically in Rainier Valley. So we have folks serving in like South King, so whether that's like Renton,
Right.
Burien, Federal Way,
Yeah.
like all of the and like unincorporated areas in Seattle, so like Skyway. We wanted to be just very inclusive, like who are our organization serving. So we came up with RV Seattle. I like to really think about what RVC does by what we are providing. So one, there's the fellowship program that we do. So what we, if anyone has ever heard of AmeriCorps, where you have folks sign up
Right.
and you get placed to an organization, we RVC took that kind of model and made it. I was a fellow as well, and made the experience even better. Like you get hired to work with an organization that's all ran by QT folks and have their board of QT folks. So, and you get paid a living wage. That's one of the big ways that we want to make sure that like Black and brown folks are getting pushed out of Seattle like so fast. And if we want to be really responsive to the needs of our community, we need the people that's going to help the community stay in our community. So all of our fellows are paid at a livable wage. And they do coaching around like what does professional development look like for you, coaching around like organization development. If you want to be a development director or find your ways in fundraising and operations, there's a lot of coaching that we do with that. So that's one of our programs. The other program that we have is the operation support, which I'm one of the program managers of. And that is like in hindsight, it is a fiscal sponsorship program. And a fiscal sponsorship is if you are a program, an organization that needs a 501c3 status, you can apply to be under our organization to share our fiscally sponsored process. To be a fiscally sponsored organization by us.
Okay.
So what we do is we notice that the main things the reason why nonprofits exist is to address issues in our community. That is what your programs are doing. And a lot of the times we saw that organizations are caught up with all the back end work. So that's like invoicing, your HR management, like how do you all of the setting up the structures, maintaining the structures of an organization in the nonprofit sector. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of attention. It's a lot of attention. So what we do is that we are program managers and when we lighten that load for you. So my work, I usually do a lot of I invoice for my partners. I help them with the budgeting process.
Yeah. Many of them can't afford to hire an accountant, a CPA, or
a bookkeeper. Like all of those are hidden expenses that we have that will take care of you, that we've already done the research. We've already had, and like finding those insurance brokers, man, those are tough. So we have that. And then what sets us apart is that we truly believe in being not your, like how fiscally sponsors sometimes work is that the fiscally sponsoring organization, like that's the end all be all. We want to make sure that the agency, the autonomy belongs to the organization that we're sponsoring. So
you do. Yeah, no, that's a very good point. I didn't mean to cut you off, but you also teach people how to do fundraising. I mean,
we do. A lot of us. So our past executive director, Voulay, he did a really good job of like addressing that all nonprofits really need is more funding, and to really be thinking about like now with the political climate that we're in, that we need to be thinking about how foundations and like individuals are divesting from harmful institutions and policies and getting them back into communities where we actually been doing the work for many years.
Very good. So how many clients do you got? How many businesses and organizations do you work with? Not businesses, but nonprofits. How many on a given year or
so right now, let me count. I don't have the number off the top of my head. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We fiscally sponsor 15 nonprofits. Yeah.
Nonprofits. Wow, that's great. And of course, in these days and times, again, with the pandemic, and people are being hit economically, socially, the issue, so how do you approach a business? How do you approach an organization? Do you reach out to them, or do they reach out to you? Because like I said, I was able to go to your site and read up, and you do a bunch of things. You do almost what's considered branding, how an organization sells themselves, and all these kinds. You have a whole cadre of staff people. So how do you do it? Reach out.
A lot of the times that organizations ask us if we have capacity to have fiscally sponsors, to be fiscally sponsored, and same thing with our fellowship programs. There is a big way, and in terms of like our capacity, because we want to serve our organizations really well. Sometimes there's a waiting list. Sometimes and that just means that we need to like staff up, or like there needs to be a shift in funding structures where we just need to keep funding these people, funding these organizations. I just wanted to point out that like outside of the accompanying with us taking care of your back end work, we do a lot of like capacity building specifically with an organization as well. So that's part of the package. That's the whole boom bang of the operation support, is that you won't be alone. Like we are your soundboard. We will help you do like we will do like the organizational development, strategic planning, board development. If you need conflict resolution in a healthy and restorative way, we will try to do some of that. So yeah, it's the comprehensive, holistic way of supporting an organization, and not just the organization, just like the people running it. So we know how hard is it to both like address the issues in our community and then run an organization. It's like that alone is isolating, and just I feel like having us be with you in the process is one of the more helpful things.
Well, that's great. And it's got to be hard now with the pandemic, which is cutting down, that interaction face to face. So you guys probably do a lot on the phone and or virtually, right? On the computer and all that.
Zoom made a check on all of us, so if they can give that money back, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah, Zoom. Well, I think that's going to be, at least for the time being, that's the way we're going to have to interact, is online, streaming, whatever. So you're talking about, what are the kinds of organizations that you support in the community? You told me you have over a dozen that you're working with now, but what kinds of things are these organizations doing in the community?
We have a whole bunch. I mean, so one of the organizations, so we have a lot of, so primarily we want to be focusing on organizations serving Black, Brown, and Native folks. So that's the qualification to be part of. But we have like Nurturing Roots, who's a nonprofit and farm in South Seattle that does like education on growing your own produce.
Right.
Like, so when we think about the world that we want to live in, we want to think about like how do we steward the land, how do we connect to our food, how are we connected to each other with the food. And yeah, so Naima Clark, who's the executive director, and the farm queen of Nurturing Roots, like that's one of her organizations. And then we also have Mujer Al Valente, who does a really good job of like meeting the needs of Latinx women, of wanting them to. So what Mujer Al Valente does is they teach Latinx women how to like get their driver's license.
Okay.
And we know like part of being independent and feeling good in the world, like we need to be able. So that's the kind of service that the Mujer Al Valente has. Yeah, it's a plethora around like youth work. We have a lot of folks engaging. Yeah, we do a bunch. Our partners does a bunch. Is primarily on like young people work. How do we get you? In COVID, a lot of our partners switched into both. Let me word it correctly. They were able to give out like money for folks during COVID.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
with the help of
that's great.
with the help of like Seattle Foundation, some of our organizations had money to give out at least $500 per person. And some folks and some folks gave away almost like $90,000.
Wow, that's great. I mean, yeah, that's really important. Well, these days and times, and I understand working with. They say teaching a person how to fish, they'll always be able to fish and never be hungry for the rest of their lives. Instead of just giving them a fish, you teach them how to fish. Instead of just giving them vegetables and fruits, you teach them how to grow it, how to, preserve it, how to do those things. That's wonderful. I was reading something about, and then I don't know if this is you or attributed to you, but this is a really neat saying. The most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great at whatever they want to do. I saw that. I read that. Yeah, that's Kobe, right?
That's Kobe. Right?
Yeah. I saw that.
Kobe.
And I think that was one of your favorite sayings. I know that is your saying. And
that's on my email sign out list. So
yeah, that's great. So you've been doing this for how long now? Working with the RVC Seattle.
So I've been working at RVC Seattle for 3 years, but I've been in the sector, in the nonprofit sector, for about maybe 7 years now, and I've been a person of color for 26.
Of course, you look like you started doing work in the nonprofit sector when you was 5 years old, because you look like you still a kid. You look like,
I grew up in the church, so like service work has always been part of like in my bloodline, like.
Very good. RVC, a capacity building, etc., is located at 1225 South Weller Street. It's Suite 400 in Seattle, 98144. Their office number is 206-436-9536. Is that correct?
Yeah. I hope so. I've never called her office before. I've never called.
You're located in the ID, right?
Yeah, the ID, correct. Yep.
Right, in the heart of where folks are, brown, black people, etc. So that's very good. Well, what is your next project? I mean, are you looking on the horizon? What is your next project that you're going to be dealing with, working under this mantle of the pandemic? That kind of thing.
I think both. It's still meeting people's basic needs around like connection. Human connection, housing, food, and education. So those are those big things. But I think as RVC, as being this pretty renowned nonprofit, I think our goal is to be pushing foundations, whether that's family or private, or or foundations of folks. Wherever wealth is stored is to be increasing their givings, and without any stipulations. I think we have institutions here where we live in where they're given money, and when they don't do what they're supposed to do, they're still given money. I think that's the kind of things that we need to be doing for the nonprofit sector, because it's not okay for institutions to be harming folks and still be paid when we have organizations that needs to scale up to really meet the needs and demands of the community.
No, that's a very good point. As we continue in this pandemic, I mean, like I said, businesses are getting hit, going out of business or cutting back. That means people are getting laid off. That means people are going to need support. The education system, kids aren't able to go to school. They're doing, I just heard, you heard the Seattle schools. They're
all online.
Yeah, all online, and they're finding out that all those kids that were there are not all registered in school right now, not even attending. So
Hey man, hey, shout out to all the teachers, shout out to all the first generation parents, or shout out to all the first generation kids with parents that doesn't know how to speak English, that are trying their best, and you are valued, because we are in unprecedented times. I don't even know if my parents could have done this. So I want to just give a lot of peace and love to anyone, any adult or any person in the households that's like trying to take care of their young folks in school right now.
So who inspired you, Miko? Who inspired you to do this? This is really great. I mean, I'm really impressed. You really strike me as somebody at your very young age. You could be out there running the streets and doing all that kind of all that.
Hey, that's how I first found organizing, was running the streets.
Okay.
That same thing, right? My OGs and my big homies are trying to meet basic needs.
Uh-huh.
Like they were addressing a problem, whether that's like lack of funding, like food insecurity, all the same things that organizations are doing now. Like my homies, that the people that I credit so much of my knowledge to is to them, and whether they're I just want to. That's who I learned a lot of all my manongs and my ninongs and my OGs and my dilos and my elders. Like those are the ones that really showed me that meeting. Like we live in a world where systems has been broken.
Right.
Hasn't been broken. They're actually functioning the way they're supposed to exist.
But they're leaving certain people out. That's the problem. The disparity.
To respond to the needs of our people of any way we can. So those are my people. But yeah, that's who inspired me. I give a lot of love and light to them.
So like I said, it's got to be daunting working in this context with the pandemic, because you guys are basically a social support network for the community, and it's got to be hard with not being able to go out on a daily basis interacting with people. And social I've had a number of people talk about social isolation is really, really hard on people, so okay. So when did you first pick, let me change up. When did you first pick up a Frisbee and say, hey, if I throw it, it goes? I mean, how did you?
I was literally in 6th grade. So we were, there was Frisbee being played in school, like during lunch. And I was like, oh, this looks dope. I'm going to check it out after school. And so the funny story is that my Frisbee coach in middle school became my coworker.
Oh, really? Really?
I think that's like the how when we do community work right, like we're able to build intergenerational knowledge and connection.
This is Miko Pugal, and Pugal from Rainier Valley Core, Seattle, and they are located at 1225 South Weller Street, Suite number 400, in the ID, and their phone number is 206 and I got to read this number right. 206-436-9536. A lot of sixes there, folks.
A lot of sixes.
Yeah, a lot of sixes. Give them a call. Find out a little bit more about it, or you go online. They got a wonderful logo, RVC, which is kind of multicolored.
You got some orange and some blues in there.
Yeah, okay. It's very good. Again, Miko is as you can say, a very dedicated individual. And we're talking about, again, the pandemic and the impact on organizations and what his work does. He's the operations support manager, program manager. So Miko, thank you very much. I wanted to talk to you, talk to you about that Frisbee thing. And again, keep up the great work. Your organization is doing a lot for the community. And as they say, we're going to get through this, but we're going to get through this thing together. All of us.
Together.
Yep. And so we're gonna end with that. And I love that saying from Kobe. Go online, folks. Check them out. RVC, Rainier Valley Core, and it's Rainier Valley Core, Seattle. Okay. And again, you're listening to our special coronavirus show, and our guest Miko Pugal from Rainier Valley Core, Seattle. We're talking about the pandemic's impact on community organizations, and here we have a organization that serves our community. And he's also a pantomimist, and he also does mime. But no,
part-time comedian too.
Yeah. Stay tuned. We're going to move on. But thank you again, Miko. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, fam.
Be safe.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not meeting Mrs. Jones in that cafe for a chat and nothing else, I'm listening to RainierAvenueRadio.world.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the Cabinets from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Sergio LaCour's Love Lines.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio LaCour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince and Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about gonna do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Nightbeat with Nasty Ness Rodriguez.
It's the beat of the Fox. K-Fox Nightbeat, Nasty Ness.
You know what? You're gonna listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba. the underground surround sound
Star Time with Paul
Thanks
Pearson.
for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday
And
evening
this is
sound
Star Time.
sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to midnight. Sunday evening, your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
All right.
There's a lot going on. Are you ready? Ready to feel better, look better, be better? Drink water. Be ready for a pickup game. Insta-frame to work hard towards your aim. Drink water. Hydrate. Hydrate to invest in yourself. Cut down on sugar. Invest in your health. Imagine the possibilities and reach your potential. Who knows what's next? Be ready. Be hydrated.